Hi, I'm Laura the Library Lady, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to continue our study of nonfiction books for this week. Girls and boys, do you remember what nonfiction books are about? If you said true stories, you're correct. You will notice today I have on my Alabama shirt. I went to the University of Alabama, and that's where I got my library degree. And our colors are red and white. That's why I have on my red, even on my glasses, and Roll Tide. So that's what we do when we're so excited about our sports team. Can you imagine not being able to go to school when you want to? I think you can, because we're going through COVID-19 right now. But there were a time where a lot of boys and girls couldn't go to school, and they certainly couldn't go to school where they wanted to go to school. But there was a young lady named Ruby Bridges who changed all that. So let's dig in and find out more about her. The name of this book is The Story of Ruby Bridges. She made a big difference, boys and girls, when she was very young. And this book is by Robert Coles, and it is illustrated by George Ford, and it has been published by Scholastic. And we want to thank them for that. And our objective today, boys and girls, is to see how little boys and girls can make a big difference in the world. On this first page, we see where Ruby Bridges was born and where she lived when she was very young. She lived in the Deep South. She lived in the state of Mississippi. And her mother wrote a dedication to her. It reads, "Our Ruby taught us a lot. She became someone who helped change our country. She was part of history, just like generals and presidents are part of history. They're leaders, and so was Ruby. She led us away from hate and led us near to knowing each other, the white folks and the black folks." All right. Ruby Bridges was born in a small cabin near Tylerton, Mississippi. We were poor. Very, very poor, Ruby said. My daddy worked picking crops. We just barely got by. There were times when we didn't have much to eat. The people who owned the land were bringing in machines to pick the crops. So my daddy lost his job, and that's when we had to move. I remember us leaving. I was 4, I think. And boys and girls, during COVID-19, your parents may have lost their job. Don't give up. Things are going to work out. In 1957, my family moved to New Orleans. Ruby's father became a janitor. Her mother took care of the children during the day. After they were tucked in bed, Ruby's mother went to work scrubbing floors in a bank. Every Sunday, the family went to church. We wanted our children to be near God's Spirit, Ruby's mother said. We wanted them to start feeling close to Him from the very start. So Ruby has to share her room and her bed. How many people are in that bed with her? Not counting her mother? If you said 3, you would be right. She said she was poor, but seems like they're doing better. At that time, black children and white children went to separate schools in New Orleans. The black children were not able to receive the same education as the white children. It wasn't fair, and it was against the nation's laws. In 1960, a judge ordered 4 black girls to go to 2 white elementary schools. 3 of those girls were sent to McDowell. 19. 6-year-old Ruby Bridges was sent to 1st grade in the William Fritz Elementary School. Oh my goodness. So they had a judge decide where they were going to go to school. Ruby's parents were proud that their daughter had been chosen to take part in an important event in American history. They went to church. We sat there and prayed to God, Ruby's mother said, that we'd all be strong and we'd have courage and we'd get through any trouble, and Ruby would be a good girl and she'd hold her head up high and be a credit to her own people and a credit to all the American people. We prayed long and we prayed hard. So we see Ruby and her family in church. Looks like the first pew, because this is going to be a difficult experience. On Ruby's first day, a large crowd of angry white people gathered outside the Fritz Elementary School. The people carried signs that said they didn't want black children in a white school. People called Ruby names. Some wanted to hurt her. The city and state police did not help Ruby. The President of the United States ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school building. The marshals carried guns. Oh my goodness, boys and girls. Can you imagine what Ruby must have felt like? How would you feel if all you wanted to do was go to school and there were people yelling and screaming and hollering, and you're only 6? Every day for weeks, that turned into months, Ruby experienced that kind of school day. She walked to the Fritz school surrounded by marshals, wearing a clean dress and a bow in her hair and carrying her lunch pail. Ruby walked slowly for the first few blocks. As Ruby approached the school, she saw a crowd of people marching up and down the street, men and women and children shouting at her. They pushed toward her. The marshals kept them from Ruby by threatening to arrest them. Ruby would hurry through the crowd and not say a word. Oh my goodness. Look at that, boys and girls. The white people in the neighborhood would not send their children to school. When Ruby got inside the building, she was all alone except for her teacher, Miss Hurley. There were no other children to keep Ruby company, to play with and learn with, to eat lunch with. But every day Ruby went into the classroom with a big smile on her face, ready to get down to the business of learning. She was polite and she worked well at her desk, said Miss Hurley. She enjoyed her time there. She didn't seem nervous or anxious or irritable or scared. She seemed as normal and relaxed as any child I've ever taught. So Ruby began learning how to read and write in an empty classroom, an empty building. So right now, our schools are empty as well, boys and girls, because of COVID-19, something that's invisible that creates great harm. But Ruby went to school by herself because white people didn't want their children to go to school with black children. That's the terms in the book. We use the term African American now. How do you think that made Ruby feel deep down inside? Sometimes I look at her and wonder how she did it, says Mrs. Hurley. How she went by those mobs and sat here all by herself and yet seemed so relaxed and comfortable. Miss Hurley would question Ruby in order to find out if the girl was really nervous and afraid, even though she seemed so calm and confident. But Ruby kept saying she was doing fine. The teacher decided to wait and see if Ruby would keep on being so relaxed and hopeful, or if she gradually began to wear down, or even decide that she no longer wanted to go to school. Can you imagine not wanting to go to school because no one wants to be near you? So when we go back to school, boys and girls, we're going to have to be careful because of COVID-19. Then one morning, something happened. Miss Hurley stood by a window in her classroom, as she usually did, watching Ruby walk toward the school. Suddenly, Ruby stopped right in front of the mob of howling and screaming people. She stood there facing all those men and women. She seemed to be talking to them. Oh, that's her teacher looking out the window. Let's see what happens next. Miss Hurley saw Ruby's lips moving, and wondered what Ruby could be saying. The crowd seemed ready to kill her. The marshals were frightened. They tried to persuade Ruby to move along. They tried to hurry her into the school, but Ruby wouldn't budge. Then Ruby stopped talking and walked into the school. Wow, Ruby was very brave. When she went into the classroom, Miss Hurley asked her what happened. Miss Hurley told Ruby that she'd been watching and that she was surprised when Ruby stopped and talked with the people in the mob. Ruby became irritated. "I didn't stop and talk with them," she said. "Ruby, I saw you talking," Miss Hurley said. "I saw your lips moving." "I wasn't talking," said Ruby. "I was praying. I was praying for them." Every morning, Ruby had stopped a few blocks away from the school to say a prayer for the people who hated her. This morning, she forgot until she was already in the middle of the angry mob. Wow, what a wonderful little girl. She was praying for people who hated her for no reason other than the color of her skin. Amazing. When school was over for the day, Ruby hurried through the mob as usual. After she walked a few blocks and the crowd was behind her, Ruby said the prayer she repeated twice a day, before and after school. "Please, God, try to forgive those people, because even if they say those bad things, they don't know what they're doing. So you could forgive them, just like you did those folks a long time ago when they said terrible things about you." Wow, what a wonderful prayer. She wanted God to forgive them. Forgiveness. So, the end of the book, it talks about, it just says that because of what she did, they were able to eventually desegregate schools, and Ruby Bridges became a teacher herself. So, boys and girls, this is the back of the book. So if there's something that's happening that's really difficult, you can use Ruby as an example and a model of what you can do about it. Hold your head up, don't give up, and pray to God. And always be willing to forgive those who hate you for no reason. All right, boys and girls, we'll be talking again tomorrow, and I will see you then. Bye.